Middle English, an introductory overview. This is a text in Middle English. It's a 14th century text from a relatively famous poem, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. And Middle English in general is the state of the language from about the year 1100 to about the year 1500. And I think that you should, looking at this text, be able to recognize that it's not a foreign language, but rather an older version of this language that we're speaking and using right now, more swiftly than you could with this text of Old English that we looked at a couple of weeks ago. The changes that the English language has undergone over its history go in various stages, and in terms of grammatical simplification, which is one of the major features of English, distinguishing it from the other Germanic languages, most of the grammatical changes sort of happen by an internal clock between this and this. The simplification of the case system and conjugation and all that kind of thing tended to happen between Old and Middle English, so that Middle English in that sense might be closer to Modern English. This is definitely a more alien text. It requires you to learn it as a somewhat foreign language, whereas I think to read Middle English, I'll show you some source books. You need some bilingual texts and some go at it. The hard part of reading Middle English is you have a lot of false friends. There's a lot of semantic shift. You have a lot of the same words in Middle English and Modern English that have totally different meanings now, and I'll show you some charts of that in a minute. To recognize this text in Middle English versus Old English, you'll see that in that time period, in the early Middle English text, you still find the F character being used sometimes in some dialects, but in the main, it's no longer used. You still have the thorn character around, and we gain a new character called the yoth here, which is quite prolific in Middle English texts and quite problematic. It has lots of different readings. This is obviously a transcription. Here's the original of this particular text, or a copy of the original here, and you can perhaps make out, well, the S's were still written the way they were, like sort of F's without vars and the like. This is obviously a modern transcription, and a major change between this and this. For some reason, this is a change in the late 20th century. It has nothing to do with Middle English, just in the transcriptions. Obviously, in here, the long vowels were never marked in any of the older manuscripts, but they're perfectly necessary for reading it, and it was a convention earlier through the early 20th century to mark them in Middle English, but now they are no longer marked. So that's the way you can tell it apart. What does this sound like? As always, I think it's more conjecture, although people who work with it would argue that they can have an idea. Let me read this. The green knecht upon ground gracefully him dresses, a little lute with the head, the lair he discovers. His long lovely lockes he laid over his croon. Let the naked neck to the note schrive. Gawain gripped to his axe and Gederis hit on hecht. The K foot he on the fold he before set. Let it doen licht on the naked, that the scherp of the schalk schindered the bones, and schrank thurch the sheer grace, and schaddig it in twin, that the bit of the brown stale boat on the ground, the fair head fro the hals hit to the earth, that fell hit found with her fate fair hit forthrolled. The blood bred fro the body that blicked on the green, and never faltered, ne fe the frake, never the helder. Both stoutly he start forth upon stiff schonkes, and runchily he racht out, there is a rinkes stonden. lach to his lovely head, and lift hit up son, and sith and bochis to his blonk, the bridle he catches, steppes into stelbow, and spreadeth aloft, and his head by the hair in his hand haldes, and as sadly the saith him in his saddle sette, as none unhap had him ailed, thus headless he were instead. He braid his blook about that ugly body that bled, money on of him had doot, be that his raisons were red. The green knicht, the green knight, upon ground, on the ground, greatly, readily, eagerly, him dresses, himself arranged. So the green knight was happy to lie himself on the ground. A little loot, a little with the head, a little bend of the head, the lair he discovers, the flesh, the skin, he uncovered. With bending his head a little, he showed his skin. His long, lovely locks, his long, lovely locks, he laid over his crown, Let the naked neck to the note scheve, and let the naked neck, by need, to the need, showed his neck. Gawain gripped to his axe, Gawain gripped his axe, and gathered it on hicht, and gathered it on high, so lifted it up high. The K foot on the ford, the left foot on the ford, the ground, he before set, he set his left foot before him on the ground. Let hit down licht on the naked, let the axe down lightly on the naked flesh. These 9-minute videos go too fast. This is a famous poem. You can find the translation of this readily. If you want to learn Old English, I want to show you some sources. I can't recommend more highly this book here, not just for Middle English, but for historical English in general. Dennis Freeborn's From Old English to Standard English. And this is a source book that gives you both the grammar and the orthography, and many texts, both with the original and then doing just as I'm doing in these videos, giving you translations, interlinear translations over here, transcriptions. Here's the Petersburg Chronicle, word-for-word translation, transcriptions, and the like. He also has many fascinating word lists showing the words as they come into the language, words from Old French and the original around 1300, from Old Norse and Arabic and other sources. Middle English is actually a language that's been quite explored in terms of dialects. We have early Middle English, Middle English, late Middle English, it's Kentish dialect and the like, and that's all really outlined in this wonderful source book. You can also get in the same older series that I showed you before. Wright is the author of them, from Oxford University Press. You can get a specific Middle English grammar with the vowels still marked. Is this early Middle English Reader by Emerson, and this has, again, all the Midland dialect, Northern dialect, Southern dialect, good selection of text to read. And another good source reader, source book, is this History of the English Language by David Burnley. So, Middle English, an introductory overview.